Lihlatana kubomakhelwane mina nje ngwaleyo ndiyane leshiselweni le kude speed point esitolo kepha utawufika umuntu hey do they swipe here ngitsini ke kule nto leyo mfombeni ngiyole ncancancane lesihlale sikhuluma ngayo lena kodwa nje mnanzi bodwa ngoba it is the festive season lokukhulu kakhulu ukuthi sihlangana nemindeni yethu sithokode sibe kanye the whole of December, even the early days of January, before bantu babuyele lapho ke baqhamuka khona kubunanzi nje bayo i-festive season leyo lungelele sithemba ukuthi konke kutawuhamba kahle lokukhulu kakhulu lokunye ke siyazi kutaba nemkhosi wekugcina lonyaka lapha even umkhosi wencwala nakhona ke sisikathile ukuthi amabutho awatawuphuma ngebuningi bawo incwala kayibukelwa lokukhulu lokho nje nangabe usekhaya utshela ukuthi utayakuyibukela ayibukelwa yagethwa mfombeni
kuningi kakhulu umngweni lokwenteka konyalo ngaDecember vele kutaba nesiphithiphithi lesiningi singena kuDecember nje vele nje bushido ukuthi is a festive season bamfo batabe vakasha labanye batabe babuye ekhaya batabe ende ma shopping batabe bagcwele emadolobheni kuningi nje kutabe kusiphithiphithi impela nakhona nje kusenjalo nje amaphoyisa abambisene inhlangano eziningi solo bayaqhubeka nekwexwayisa sive semaswati ukuthi sicaphele masende ama online transactions noma nasisavakashela wona amabhanga noma ama ATMs ngoba leti gebengu vele tibona ama opportunities gosh nakubhizi kakhulu
Cybercrime Awareness Month November National Cybercrime Awareness Month kukhulunyiswa yona lenzaba lenkulu le kuthenini sive semaswati siphelile in fact umhlaba wonke kodwa nje siyabona ngathi nalakhaya sekukhula ngelizinga lelithusako lelikhathatako indzaba yabo cybercrime nabo cyberbullying empeleni ngoba akusiyo le crime kuphela lokhanza ukuthi sawulahlekelwe imali people are being bullied online khanza ukuthi sebangena kubo depression abanye sebati bulala lokho into lekufuna ukuthi sicaphele kakhulu people get too excited ngabo December so nje le awareness kulolo hlangothi if you haven't watched my episodes lesikhulumise khona abo National Cybercrime Awareness Month you can go back review those messages leswatfolile netexwayiso esitfolile kuthenini we need to tread carefully kule nyanga yengongwane kunengi people they are always out to get blood labagangako
sizangena nje ku for the 1st of December also United Nations abamisene namave onke emhlaba is commemorating World AIDS Day lamuhla langa lelikhulu lamhlahlangene lamuhla siyitabe sikhulumisana nje nebaka nature kuve ukuthi live selambe kanganani kulweni nesifo iAIDS akumele ukuthi solo kuyavela nje mebikweni ukuthi vele cha sisebende kakhulu impela ngoba sesindlulile kulo 95 lofunwa nguye emhlahlangene siyitabe nje senaye nje sibusiso ngubana tosichazele ukuthi ingabe nature nalenye inhlangothi isebenze kanganani sizakumele ukuthi kwasukunyiswa i-National Multi-Sectoral HIV and AIDS Strategic Framework eminyaka wa 2018 ku 2023 behlose ukubuka indzaba the reduction of HIV incidence among persons aged 15 to 49 years by 85% iphinze futhi reduct HIV incidence among persons aged 15 to 24 by 85% kanye ne reduction of new HIV infections among infants aged 0 to 1 year to less than 0.5%. Kuningi nje nema deaths kanye ne new infections kuba mflabasha sifuna kuve ukuthi kusukela ngayo lo mnyaka wa 2018 kuze kube nginyana 2023 sekusebendeke kanganani sitaba sinaye ke nomhlekiseni just after speaking to Vusi Dlamini and also they are commemorating this day khona eshiselweni eGilgal so sitaba sinaye ecingweni sikhulumisane siphenze sikhulumisane ke ngato tindzaba tekubhadala kwemthelo is a Friday sitabe sinaye Vusi Dlamini waka ERS sibuka ke lomhlakiseni tindzaba teku isekulula VAT njengoba kumele ukuthi vele solo siphithiphithi bamfatabe baphuma bayothenga impahla tabo noma yiloko naloko labakuthenga konyalo nge-festive season sabe sinaye Vusi nomhlakiseni 6:30 kuvaka abantu njengayo isekulula VAT easy
Mfombeni ngiyabuka nje ngiyalalela I'm really keen to listening to Ngubane you did highlight ukuthi utakhulumisana naNgubane lochamuka kaNature indzaba ye-HIV AIDS we have had moments la khona besishadandla silive and I believe even the king highlighted during his during the double celebration yelive la Ngwane indzaba lenkulu ukuthi vele lawo ma targets lo washoko lo highlightile sesiwashayile sibe lihlahlandlela empeleni ekwashayeni sihambe embili nasibukana lamanye mafe kodwa just a couple of days ago sibona lamanye ma headlines lathi infection rate nayo seyisetulu 4000 new infections indzaba lena lengikhathata kakhulu
amandla nje
engabe kanze isalaphi Mpombeni kodwa naku sengo-interview Mpombeni unpack kabanti nangubani umbukele emakhaya utaku-enjoya lokho ngoba utawufunza lokuningi kanti-ke nangabe uthanza ema-sports hawu ngilesihlanu uyaqika ukuthi utawuthokotela inkulumo yami na Fabrice Msonera kubukadonade imidlalo letentekile kuleli viki nempela sonto lesisaya kuyo ekuthenini ma-fixtures khona eme kanjani sibonile ke lakhaya ukuthi lange nje la etolo la kuthandi tinvo tishintshile kuma log standings. Green Mamba is back on top. Nsingizini Hotspurs is showing signs of really being a force to reckon with. We really want to discuss development nje lapha ekhaya kutemidlalo. We maybe do want to touch on Sihlangu. Let's sit down 3 sports kuma FIFA charts. This just in, by the way, sikutfole nje langeni lekusa kwalo muhla naba analyze. Sihlangu has dropped 3 sports or charts down from where we were positioned. Logo yinvo lebhlungu kakhulu. I mean, we've had the conversation at Senini. What is really wrong? Is it Coach Dominic? Is it the squad? Is it EFA? Gunenga cool. Fabrice Msonera will help us unpack all of that. We will look to South Africa as well as the English Premier League and La Liga. So don't go anywhere. It's going to be an exciting one.
Yeah, let's go to Asbuge. Let's go to Kuma Pepantapa. Kusile Times of Eswatini leti hamba embili economic planning official drops bombshell and tells MPs Eswatini economy poorly managed by government. She decries lack of monitoring of government resources, high corruption in ministries and uncontrolled spending. Victory for social media users on social political comments. Kulenye, fresh claims of from 5 papers leak quashed, and 3 kidnapped businessmen's child, a 3-year-old, demand 200,000 emalangeni ransom.
3 kidnapped, okay. Kutemidlalo, good times of Eswatini. Unwelcome scenes in football match as it's extraordinary. Eggshells on football pitch in Nsingizini Hotspurs, Mbabane Highlanders League clash. It's a really scene level lapha sibone macanza vele lapha nawaya lama eggshells kulesa sithombe lesa, so the metaphor really fits for this kind of story. On another one, Sihlangu is down 3 places on FIFA charts. The Eswatini national team Sihlangu Semnikati have fallen 3 places on the FIFA charts to occupy their worst rank for the year. See, Fabrice Msonera. But Brighton hammers seal knockout spots. Brighton bedlala ne AEK lewineke 1-0. Kanti Uganda reached T20 World Cup ku cricket.
That's why Eswatini Daily News most corrupt statement raises MP's eye. Beselenye lihamba embili. Private sector turns to government over Durban Port congestion. Kansilenye lihamba embili. Health Ministry, University of Pretoria partner for improved neonatal care.
Demdlalo Eswatini Daily News this Friday morning. FIFA rankings, Sihlangu falls like dominoes. Since April, the national team Sihlangu Semnikati has been on a downward spiral that has seen the nation's pride go down 3 more places to position 149 in the latest FIFA World Cup rankings after opening 2 defeats in the 2026 World Cup qualifiers recently. That said, Wanderers turned to supporters for financial assistance. In the English Premier League, Manchester City's trial D-Day has been revealed.
All right, 10 minutes after 6, asibahlelete makethe Spain edinzaba Eswatini.
Umsakazo wetithombe iEswatini TV utibophelele kuhlonipha nekulandzela umgomo wetekusakata loweluswe libandla letekuchumana eveni.
Ngephansi kwalomgomo sitimisele kusakata tindzaba tenteya ngaleso sikhatsi tindzaba letide magama laqosheme letitsembekile letitsinza tonke tinhlangothi naletisebaleni
kusukela kutepolitiki tetemphilo, tekulima, tetinkantolo, netemhlaba wonke jikelele. Siniletsela tindzaba njengoba tinjalo ngaleso sikhathi letenteka ngaso.
Kanzi kulo msakato siphinde sikulethele lonke luhlobo lwetemidlalo kusuka emidlalweni welibhola letinyawo kuye emidlalweni ledlalelwa ematafuleni kanye naleto letiqhamuka ngaphandle kwakuleli.
Leti tindzaba lowutiletselwa ngumsakato wetitfombe iEswatini TV.
Kwalomhla sibone ukuthi soloke uhleli nathi siphinde sikwamukele ehlelweni sithathe nathi itindzaba. Umhlonishwa Mvunankhulu Russell Dlamini sawufikile edolobheni leDubai even le-United Arab Emirates kutawumelela ingwenyama emhlanganweni wemashumi lamabili nesiphohlongo wakamhlaba lobukati indlela tekulwa nekugucuka kwesimo selitulu i-COP28. Ngisathele umsakato Teqball hlanganisele nangombiko.
Umhlonishwa Mvunankhulu kubheke ukuthi ayemeleleke silwe semhlaba ingwenyama inkosi Mswati wesithathu emhlanganweni wabaholi bemave emhlaba lotawubanjwa mhla lulunye upheleke kumhla 2 kulesetulu. Nakefika Mvunankhulu ufike wamukelwa ngilonxusele live laseSwatini lapha eDubai Sifiso Dlamini akanye nenduna yetangephandle Pholile Shakhantu. Umgomo lomkhulu walomhlangano ukuthi ke emave avumelane ukuthi ngutiphi indlela tatenda kunciphisa kushisa losekukhona emhlabeni. Kutawuba-ke kwesibili eminyakeni lemibili kusilo mhlangano waloluhlobo ubanjelwe lapha eMiddle East. Kanti-ke kwesithathu ukuthi ubanjwe live lelilunga lenhlangano yaka OPEC ngemuva kwelive leQatar lawubamba ngeminyaka wa 2012 kanye nelive leIndonesia ngeminyaka wa 2007. Live le-United Arab Emirates lingilamanye lemave leli kwatiko kuguquka kwesimo selitulu njengoba lishisa kakhulu lelive. Kuthiwa-ke kusukela ngeminyaka wa 1990 kude kube ngumnyaka wa 2022 kushisa kunyuke nga 1.27 degrees Celsius lapha e-UAE. Live le-UAE live lekuqala-ke futhi lapha eMiddle East kuthi lisayine iParis Agreement liyasayinwa mhla tinge-21 enyangeni yeNyoni ngeminyaka wa 2016. Lelive selihlanyele imali lefikako ku-50 billion amadola esemelika kuthi-ke kukhicitwe gesi longanyuka kube timvelo. Ngenyanga yelweti eminyakeni wa 2022 lelive lasayina izivumelwano nelive leMelika sekuthi-ke atawuhlanyela imali lefikako ku-100 billion wemadola asemelika ekusiteni emave lamaningi emhlabeni ukuthi akhicite gesi longanyuka kube timvelo. Umbiko ohlanganiswe nguTeqball ngiseDubai e-United Arab Emirates.
Indvuna yelitiko letinkhundla sikhumbuzo Dlamini ithi ilitiko sevele licalile kulungisa takhiwo tetinkhundla letalimala ngesikhathi kunemsindvo lapha eveni. Indvuna ikhulumela lokhu ngesikhathi icocisana netinsatheli talomsakato.
Takhiwo tetinkhundla letalimala ngesikhathi kunebudlwangudlwangu eveni seticalile kulungiswa kanti netinkhundla lebekadze tite takhiwo setiyalungiselelwa ukuthi takhiwe kute sive sitokhona kutfola lonke lusito loludzingeka ukuthi litfolwe enkhundleni. Loku-ke kukhulunywe yindvuna yelitiko letinkhundla yasikhumbuzo Dlamini.
Litiko vele lisukumile liyati lungisa tinkhundla letiningi takhona setivele licaliwe liyasenjetwa but letinye futhi tise-procurement stage but nje lengenteka singaticali lonyaka timbili kuphela kusho sivele litiko lisukumile liyagijima vele kodwa-ke letetinsha-ke nato litiko kukhwale likwentako lisakhulumisana nawo nomndeni omkhulu nema-partners la ekutheni yini lengentiwa maybe ncenye ngatindzaba tabo-Triple-P ngibambisana ne-private sector kuthi ngentiwani ngoba vele umsendo matima lona lodurile inkhundla iyinye nje ayibiti imali lencane ikakhulu ngoba la inkhundla tethu sesifuna ukuthi tibe ma-service centers.
Induna yenkhundla eGilgal gcina nyawo idumise litiko ngekusukumela etulu kwakhiwe sakhiwo senkhundla yaseGilgal.
Siphakamisa tibonga angathi lokuthi umuntu angabonga athini emakhosini elive bekulukhuni vele kusebentela kule yandlu yaka-agriculture beyincane kulesimo-ke kushisa ngaso lalibonjeni kude longadi ngojuluka nje ungena siyabonga kakhulu uhulumende wembube siyethemba lokuthi ukuthi awusebenzeka kube lula kakhulu.
Esifundzeni saselibonjeni, inkundla yaseligongolweni iyinkhomba yekuthi hulumende usonzetela usito odudane nesive njengoba sive sithola lonke lisito enkundleni. Umbiko uhlanganiswe ngithembelihle Magutshwa ngiselibonjeni.
Lovisi lemphathi sifundza sakahoho seletfule indvuna elitiko letinkhundla sikhumbuzo Dlamini kubantfu benkosi kanye nabo babetkhulu bakahoho. Kanzike lobekamelele umphathi sifundza lokungumabhalane walesifundza Sibusiso Dlamini ucele bantfu benkosi nabo babetkhulu kwekuthi balibambise litiko kanye nendvuna njengoba kulutfungo lolutsenjweke ingwenyama kuleli tiko.
Akhuluma uma yethula indvuna elitiko letinkhundla amabhalane wesifundza sakahoho Sibusiso Dlamini uthi kubalulekile kwekuthi imiphakathi itibambise tinkhundla njengoba intuthuko yelive idinde khona.
Donethulela malangeni indvuna yelitiko letinkhundla lesiluketwe yona kanje kufanele engwenyama ukuthi angaba nathi etinkhundleni asibambise enkhundleni ke niyati ubambe ukuthi vele lapho kutindeni khona kakhulu. Ngoba lesiluketwe yona abantu benkosi umlangeni Sikhumbuzo Dlamini uqhamuka enkundleni yasenkwele ishiselweni.
Indvuna yelitiko letinkhundla Sikhumbuzo Dlamini itsite litiko liyatinikela ekubambiseni live ekuthuthukiseni imimango kodwa lokho kutawukwenteka uma babambisene nebantfu benkosi nabo babetikhulu.
Angisho ke kubabelo ukuthi ingwenyama yemhlaba ikhulumile sonke siyivile. EmaSwati akhulumile sibayeni. Dinengi tindlu eMaSwati lakhale ngato ukuthi ngakuthi vele siyawutisebenta selitiko nathi licondzene nathi sitinkhundla. Asisho ke ukuthi vele siyatinikela la ekutheni sitawubambisana live la ekutheni kulesifunye kona kwenteke nekubambisana nabo babetikhulu nabantu benkosi ikakhulu ngoba vele sokushido lomele umphathi sifundza lalo ukuthi konke nentuthuko nawo konke kukhungele kubo bobabe nangaye bobabe sibashiya ngemuva angesifikile la sifake khona.
Bakhuluma uma bemukela indvuna yelitiko bantfu benkosi nabo babetikhulu bacele ukuthi lelitiko libe nemphahla leyanele yekusebenta njengokuthi inkundla ngenkundla ibe neloli yayo letawubuka intuthuko nemisebenti yelive lesemphakathi. Lokunye kube indzaba yemthetho sisekelo bacele ukuthi umikiso esiveni kute eMaSwati awadi. Etindzabeni teSwatini TV ngibongosi Magagula isipiki.
Hulumende ugcile kakhulu ekuphumeleliseni umgomo wesiphohlongo kudekta uphumelela kahle yonke leminye imigomo yakamhlaba yentuthuko lekhonsako ngeminyaka wa-2030. Lokhu ke kushiwo ngumabhalane lomkhulu etiko letekuhlela umnotfo nentuthuko Kusile emlangeni emhlanganweni nemalunga ePhalamende el-12 lubanjelwe ehotela eHappy Valley eZulwini.
Lesinye setihloko lebesidzingidwa ilangeni lesine lalomhlangano sikolo emalunga ePhalamende ngoleso sekuhlangabetana nemigomo yentuthuko lekhosako yakamhlaba.
Leminyaka lemi7 besele yini lesingakwenda sisheshe ukhona lesiubukile lokho ukuthi uma singaconza lo umgomo wokukhulisa umnotho wekwakha amathuba emisebenzi lokunye kutabe sekuyasebenteka nako ngoba lokho kunemthelela lomkhulu kuyo yonke leminye imigomo lengisebenzile. Lokunye lobesikwethula kubahlonishwa ukuthi bakwadi basangena ukuthi sine National Development Plan. Luhlelo lokuthuthukisa lelive lolukhava iminyaka lesihlanu.
Mabhalane wePhalamende Benedict Caba uthi emalunga ePhalamende abheke ukuthi afake isandla lesibande ekuphumeleliseni lemigomo.
Batawukhona kuphakamise ama-motions babute bona bo-minister baphindze kube nema-questions abheke kubo minister ukuthi njengobe sebo-CTA kuthinziwe tindzaba ukuthi uthola ukuthi into iyalahleka kodwa-ke kufuneka bahlonishwa bona ngoba benti oversight bakhone kumbuta minister sekuhamba njani e-CTA.
Lokunye lokubalulwe ngumabhalane lomkhulu Kusile emlangeni ukuthi live leSwatini lihamba embili endzabeni yokufinyelelisa geze esiveni uma licathaniswa nalamanye emave e-Afrika. Etindzabeni teSwatini TV kubika Mbongwa Dube eZulwini.
Mapalane lomkhulu etiko leti-70 tembuso Sipho Tsabetsa uthi akukho emandleni elitiko leti-70 kugucula imininingwane yetibongo teti-70 tembuso. Tsabetsa uthi lokugucuka kwaletibongo kakhulu leto tabomake labashadile kubangwe kumakwe kusetjentiswa kwemapasi kuleli. Lekwenteke etinyangeni letimbalwa letendlulile.
Sineke la public service sesithatha la le-ID number sebenzisa yona nyalo esikhundleni sale credit tax number bese ke le ID number ita na yonke le information le population register lo khanda kuthi seyifika ikhansela lesibongo lebesinaso thina la system kule HR system sekuma lesibongo lesingale ku population register. Njengoba kubonakala ukuthi ti-70 tembuso leti tsinzekile tiphatheke kabi ngalokho singadeluleka lokuthi tiye etiko la Home Affairs labangibona labaphethe le population register kuyo lungisa kahle lemininingwane yabo itovela ifanane ngoba ngalesikhathi nje bayilungisa le automatically iyalungiseka nangala ngakithi. Sithi njeke asicolise kakhulu silitiko la public service etsebenzini tembuso ngalokhu lokwentekile bekungakusiyo inhloso bekusentshetwa.
Litiko letempilo lisinzise impilo tebantfwana labancane ngekusukumisa ligumbi lekunakekela abantfwana labadelwe esikhatsi sengakafiki. Kanti-ke ngekusho kwelisekela lemcondzisi wetempilo Dokotela Bongiwe Malinga litiko selinetinhlelo tekwenabisa lusito lwebantfwana labaphilile nasetindzaweni letisemakhaya. Lokho-ke likwenta nekubambisana nenyuvesi yasePitoli. Dokotela Malinga bekakhuluma ngesikhatsi litiko ligubha lusuku lwebantfwana labatalwa esikhatsi sengakafiki esibhedlela eMbabane i-World Prematurity Day.
Eswatini lisukumise tinhlelo letisite kakhulu ekuthenini bantfwana labadelwe esikhatsi singakafiki bakhone kusitakala. Akhuluma emcimbini wekugubha lusuku lwebantfwana labadelwe esikhatsi singakafiki, lisekela lemcondzisi wetempilo Dokotela Bongiwe Malinga lithi-ke litiko lisukumise ligumbi lekwelapha abantfwana.
2 years ago nje sikhona la sibhedlela savula ligumbi noma liwadi labo labantwana labancane lesithi i-Neonatal ICU. Ayinakeleli ebo prematurity bodwa kodwa nje nabo bo prematurity bayakhona kungena batholela usito kulelo gumbi. Linemibhedze vele le special lebasita ukuthi baphefumule kahle bakhone nekuthi bakhone nabo bakhule baketchup bonza ngayabo. So lokho kwaba ngumntamo lomkhulu kakhulu uhulumende la wenda abambisene nema partners akhe.
Dokotela Eunice Ruhida lophethe ligumbi esibhedlela lesikhulu seMbabane uthi-ke leli gumbi libasite kakhulu futhi lenda umsebenzi wabo wabamelula.
The Ministry of Health with partnership with UNICEF and UKAID opened the first neonatal ICU in the country. That made a huge difference that I cannot explain right now.
Phumzile Mamba Longmage uchaza ngelusito lalitfolile kanye nemntfwana wakhe kulesibhedlela sahulumende.
Mbabane government ngifike ngasitakala kakhulu because mangifika njena umfana beka weya 565 grams but ngaphuma naye sekamkhulu nje because lapho bese ka weya bo 2 kg.
Leli gumbi lelinemishini letfutfukile hulumende lalakhile kulesibhedlela lihambisana ngco nemgomo wentfutfuko wakamhlaba wesithathu lokhutsata kunakekeleka kwebantfu ikakhulu ngetempilo. Etendzabeni kubika Sondomlangeni navuma Inkosi Nzinisa eMbabane.
Losabambe kuba ngimabhalane lomkhulu etiko letemfundvo Naniki Mnisi uthi hulumende ufisa ukuthi luhlelo lwemfundvo yebantfwana labangephansi kweminyaka lesihlanu lusabalale nasetindzaweni letisemaphandleni. Mnisi ukusho lokhu ngesikhathi yavula ngalokusemthethweni umhlangano lobuka lokutfolwe lucwaningo lwemfundvo lwalabantfwana kuleli.
Lecwaningo ngemfundo yebantfwana lebasengakalungeli ukungena esikolweni lentiwe kuleli lokungenani iminyaka leketulu kwalemthathu kamsunduza. Lisekela amabhalane lomkhulu etiko letemfundo Naniki Mnisi uthi lemfundo lelihlobo ivula abantwana ingcondo inciphisa kufeyila kwabantwana ebangeni lekucala.
The ministry will be looking at increasing access to ECCD in rural public institutions through supporting the inception of grade 0 in more than 300 rural public primary schools.
Uphindze futhi uthi iside nje nakumbaneni ukuthi yakhona ukukhuluma melula kubala kulokunye. Isekela lenyuvesi lakuleli Professor Justice Thwala uchaza ngaletinye tintfo letitholwe nguleli cwaningo lokufaka ekhatsi kushoda kwemtsetfo lokuyinto lathi kumele isukunyelwe etulu.
While all parents expressed a strong desire to send their children to preschool, there were a number of challenges they are faced with.
Okunye uthi kuba kuncane kwetintfo letidzingeka etindzaweni la kugcina khona abantwana lokufaka ekhatsi leto tekudlala. Dr. Dudu uhlophe longumhloli wemfundo yalabancane etiko letemfundo uthi kungumanje botishaya labakhona labaneticu letifaka ekhatsi emadiploma kanye netitifiketi labakafundzisa imfundo yalabancane bangetulu kwenkulungwane namakhulu asiphohlongo ukuthi le mfundo lo idlala inzima lenkulu ekutfutfukiseni temfundvo.
Most children in Eswatini reach primary school age lacking essential basic skills for school readiness, which is the brain stimulation, which is the manipulative skills, which is early literacy, as well as early numeracy. This is due to the lack of access to ECCD services, which are remaining low among children mainly from the poor rural communities.
Tikhulumi letinyenti tehlukahlukene lokufaka ekhatsi Dr. Christina McMillan wenyuvesi e-Edinburgh lesebenzisene nenyuvesi lakuleli kuleli cwaningo lemfundo yabantwana lesingakalungeli ukungena esikolweni tigcizelele ngebumcoka phekuphephe etindzaweni la kutogcinwa khona labantwana. Etindzabeni kubika Fortune Dlangamandla nginaThemba Shabangu sisezulwini.
Kutemidlalo likhethelo lesive sihlangu semnikati sehlele ku-149 kumave langu-210 kuma-FIFA rankings laphume ngalesine lokube ngema-rankings ekugcina lonyaka lakhishwa inhlangano lengamele kudlalisa ibhola emhlabeni. Umceceshi welikhethelo lesive Dominic Gunene uthi lama-rankings sekabanika insayeya lenkhulu ekutheni balikhethelo lesive basebente ngekuthi ikhandla live likhone kunyuka kuwo ema-rankings.
Ikhethelo lesive sihlangu semnikati sehlele endaweni ye-149 kumave langu-210 kuma-FIFA rankings laphumile ngalesine lokube ama-rankings ekugcina lo mnyaka lakhishwe ngenhlangano lengamele umdlalo webhola emhlabeni. Nakagcina kuphuma wona ama-rankings ngenyanga yembala sihlangu besisendaweni ye-146. Kuyo yonke imidlalo ema-qualifiers e-Africa Cup of Nations kanye naleyo yama-World Cup qualifiers kude ngisho namunye umdlalo sihlangu lesikhonile kuwuncoba. Emlandweni welikhethelo lesive ama-rankings lake aphakama angedlula ku-100 ngesikhathi sihlangu siba sendaweni yesi-88 emhlabeni kanti imiphumela yama-rankings leyake yehla kakhulu ngesikhathi sihlangu sitholakala sisendaweni yesi-190. Umceceshi welikhethelo lesive sihlangu semnikati Dominic Gunene uthi lama-rankings abanika insayeya lenkulu ukuthi balikhethelo lesive basebente ngekuthi ikhandla kuti live litawukhona kwenyuka kuwo ama-rankings. Kuleminye imiphumela emhlabeni live le-Argentina solosihlete esicongweni kanti evekatini le-Afrika iMorocco ngiyo lehamba embili iphindze ibe sendaweni yesi-13 emhlabeni. Ibafana bafana yaseNingizimu Afrika isendaweni yesi-66 emhlabeni livela kubomakhelwane iLesotho lisendaweni yesi-148. Lobikela umsakazi Eswatini TV kutemidlalo ngilinda Dlamini kanti umbiko uhlanganisa uFabrice Msonera eMbabane.
Kanti likhethelo lesive lemdlalo we-Teqball lona lelimelele live endzebeni yemhlaba lechubeka eveni le-Thailand seliphumile kulendzebe kulandzela kukhala phansi esigabeni sema-last 32. Kule midlalo live belimelelwe nguSipho Sethu Sikhonze kanye namenzi Mnisi kanti-ke umceceshi wabo uNaomi DuPont. Inhlangano ledlalisa lo mdlalo eveni indlulise kubonga kuleli khethelo ngekutimisela kulandzela ukuthi live belingenela lendzebe kwekucala ngca emlandveni kusukela ke lo mdlalo wafika eveni ngeminyaka wa-2019.
Ikhethelo lesive lemidlalo we-Teqball lelimelele live endzebeni yemhlaba lichubeka-ke eveni lase-Thailand seliphumile kule nddzebe kulandzela kukhala phasi esigabeni se-last 32 lokusigaba sekucala salo mdlalo. Kule midlalo lelive belimelelwe nguSipho Sethu Sikhonze kanye namenzi Mnisi lapho khona umceceshi wabo bekuNaomi DuPont. Leli khethelo belingenelele ndzebe kwekucala emlandweni walo kusukela inhlangano yemidlalo we-Teqball lapha eveni yasungulwa ngomnyaka wa-2019. Sipho Sethu Sikhonze uphume ngesikhathi atfolana etulu nemave lamathathu lokulive leNdiya, live leJapan, esigabeni sama-singles bese kuthi esigabeni sama-doubles labadlali ababili bakhonile kushaya iChina kodwa-ke bakhala phasi kuHungary kanye neCzech Republic. Inhlangano edlalisa umdlalo we-Teqball lapha eveni idumisele likhethelo ngekutimisela njengoba live belingenelele ndzebe kwekucala. Lenhlangano ithi seyinalo lithemba ukuthi live litawukhona kwenta kahle emidlalweni yema All Africa Games ngenyanga yeNdlovulenkulu eminyakeni lotako letawubanjwa 11 laseGhana. Lobikela umsakathi Eswatini TV temidlalo ngilinda Dlamini kanzombeki uhlanganisa nguFabrice Msonera eMbabane.
Ngosa sibahlole emakethe ngesimo selitulo sitawubuya sichubeke nehlelo.
Is able to change your story. This is not your place. God created these legs for you to walk, not to be pushed. Yes. Get up.
Eswatini, this is your time and don't miss these events. This is going to be a miraculous service. The all night on Friday is going to be Friday of miracle raining. Prophetic healing bed is coming. Saturday is going to be powerful. Sunday is going to be powerful. Invite friends and family. You don't need to miss this time. Your prophecy is now.
I command these legs to grow exactly as it's supposed to be. Come, walk.
Don't miss this event. See you at the Mavusu Trade Center. Shalom.
I can feel there is power in believing in Jesus.
This weekend is Eswatini, your official weekend party starter. Tune in for the best of entertainment. We're bringing you the hottest music videos and live studio interviews with your favorite celebrities. We're giving you a front row seat to the latest fashion trends as well as your weekend gig guide. Join us live on social media and call in to send your shout outs. Be sure to catch our movie segment where we review and give updates on all latest movies. Catch This Weekend Eswatini every Friday at 5:30 p.m. live on Eswatini TV.
Are they yours?
Ngabukela ke washa umkhukhu every Sunday at 3 p.m.
Welcome back. Sakuvusela nawo losanza kusivulela to Friday ngabo lesihlanu side kaDonati Ndzaba tekubhadalwa kwemthelo la Communications Director ka-ARS Vusi Dlamini evikini leliphelileke besikhuluma ngecampaign isonzela sikhulume campaign manje namhla sikhuluma ngasekulula VAT easy ezinje siveza amaswati sitawuphuma siye emaveni abomakhelwane siyothenga Donati impahla noma lokwana lokwa lesitabe sikuthenga kubalekile ukuthi sathi kabanti ngesekulula VAT easy. I'm joined by Vusi Dlamini nyala tusichazela kabanti ngawo lo msebenzi nokuva nje ukuthi evikini liphelile nje usakhumula ukuthi bekungiyo iBlack Friday abantu labaningi vele baphuma emarketeni akuleli bayawuthenga sifuna ukuva ukuthi ngabe leyo msebenzi loyo uhambe kanjani nabasangena lapha emarketeni bakhonile yini vele mhlambe ku declare leto timbahla leto bebayodithenga ngoba sekuvusele once again. Thank you for joining us this morning. Mhlambe singangeni kiyo lesekulula VAT izukuva nje kafishane ukuthi kuhambe kanjani last week Friday bamfuna baphuma basaye kuyowenda i-shopping yabo bakhonile ni ku-comply emarketeni akuleli.
Thank you very much Lulu. Yes ngidawuthi mhlambe lokho ngijabulisako ukuthi kule topic yalamuhla in a way sidawuthi icishe ibe continuation of what was happening during Black Friday, because what we're emphasizing is at Black Friday say now South Africa, you must ensure that you declare them at the border, and we're just highlighting some of the key things that are needed. We saw say there was quite a number of people, labangenile bangena naleto timpahla, and then satibona letinye the number letenda ngokuthi sithi asibuye stock phinza sichaza kabandi ngalo hlelo lwasekulula VAT easy, ikakhulukati in relation to what we refer to as the tax invoice and the certain things that we say go critical nangabe kusho ukuthi kufanele uqualify for sekulula VAT easy.
Okay, so sisakuteka nje Donatins about the qualifier, who actually does qualify for sekulula VAT? Iyini kahle kahle yona vele le sekulula?
Basically uhlelo lwasekulula VAT is luhlelo lwenda ne-level abomakhelwane eSouth Africa. Sitawukhumbula ukuthi siyathengiselana cishe kakhulu nalo level ase-South Africa, so ukuthengiselana kwethu-ke kuyaye kusho ukuthi nakwendeka utithenga leto timpahla even lapho makhelwane kune VAT lo ibhadalako eSouth Africa, which is 15%. I-rate ya VAT ke eSouth Africa na 7 lakangwane cishe iyafana for as long as I remember, ihlale ifana njena kung 14% kuba 14% nakangwane loku sekung 15 seng 15. Now lescheme leske noma lo hlelo lwathi nalicalwa kwavunyelwana kulamavela amabili kwakuthi ngekuthi sithi i-VAT kuthiwa ngesingisi is destination based, lokusho ukuthi i-VAT mbambamba ibhadalwa in the country where the VAT or the goods that you are buying are going to be consumed, noma ke la utawusebenzisa khona leto timpahla. Lokho ke kusho ukuthi nangabe uthenga timpahla eSouth Africa watisebenzisa now utatisebenzisa eSouth Africa, you will not qualify under sekulula. Ngibekise nangabe you went into a hotel in South Africa and consumed services of a hotel, walala hotel abakubhadalisa, obviously kune VAT lo tayibhadala, you will not come back with that service to the country. But nangabe kwendekile wathenga leto timpahla ke so ubuya nato even lakangwane, leto timpahla sithi le scheme less utawusebenzisa leyo invoice leyo ukuthi na ufika e-border na iqualify leyo invoice ubhadale leto timpahla for i-VAT ya 7 lakangwane. Ngibekise if you've bought goods worth 10,000 emalangeni, the reality is the VAT would be 15%, 1,500. You would have paid 1,500 on the South African side. You are expected to pay 1,500 on the Eswatini side. But then because so mbadele South Africa, you will then give us that invoice. Tsinege sing ERS stauses hambela leyo mali South Africa, because we still need the cash to clear your debt on the Eswatini side. So that is how the scheme works. I think umbutu wakolomunye uti who qualifies. Qualify everyone who is a resident in Eswatini. Kushokuthi ngumuntu lohlala even lakangwane, but it excludes South Africans.
Oh, so if you're a South African national,
but staying
in South Africa but staying in Eswatini, you do not pay. If you do not qualify.
If you hold a South African passport, because that is how we will see, and you are staying in Eswatini, you do not qualify under the scheme.
Okay, ngifuna sikhuluma nje indzaba nje when you now figure upon arrival at lama border gates, yini kahle kahle lena lekumele uyende, because I think siyakhumbula ukuthi ekukatheni bekuthiwa mangabe uthenga impahla leti less than 1,000 emalangeni, there's no need for declaration, there's no need ukuthi uhambe uyobhadala mhlambe VAT. Ngabe kusise kanjalo yini, dithini athina amaqiniso namanga kulokho?
Thank you very much, Lulu. I think the one thing we need to clarify is that all goods coming through the border must be declared, whether you bought them or you didn't buy them, whether they are 100 emalangeni or 1,000 or 1,500. The reality is you have to declare those goods at the border so that we can determine ukuthi kufanele ukuthi ubhadale umthelo. Kwesibili lokho, in fact ku-secondary kwekucala ukuthi we do need to have the statistics ukuthi sithengiselana kanjani nalamanye amave, lokusho ukuthi sithengiselana kanjani na South Africa in this particular case. So which is why we expect that you must declare those goods at the border regardless of the value of the goods.
But in terms of payment, I think because land maybe lamhlanga lokuthi sikhuluma ngasekulula, but if you were to pay cash because the goods do not qualify under Segulula, the rule is if there is an allowance of 1,000. So if you have bought goods more than 1,000 and you, let's say 1,000, let's say 1,500, so it means utawubhatala VAT on the 500 emalangeni. That is if lama goods akho they do not qualify under Segulula.
So ngosini mzita kanjani umumvu lo uthenge esitolo lapho bay includile VAT, but unfortunately wa misplace mhlambe leyo tax invoice leyo receipt, engabe usitakala kanjani loyo uyangena kini ya declare ukuthi nathi impahla ngithengile niyakhona ni kumsita kumbambisa?
We because the way the Segulula program works, I think you've brought in the questionnaire invoice, which is very critical. I think we will have to explain what are the qualities that we look for in that invoice. Invoice, what do we do? Unfortunately, because that's the document, let's say, to SARS, CS South Africa, to claim the VAT, we will expect that you have to pay when you get to the border. If you don't have the qualifying invoice, actually, it doesn't qualify. Because the invoice doesn't qualify. If I were to make an example, we expect that if the goods are 5,000 and above, the invoice should have your name and your address in Eswatini. So nangabe ite lama details lawo, unfortunately, that means you have to pay cash at the border. But if you still have a chance to go back to your supplier, invoice, you can still bring that invoice to us, and then you would have paid to Lagiti, basically, then invoice, we submit it to SARS to claim the VAT on your behalf, and then that VAT will basically pay back to you when South Africa pays it to us.
Kokugcina nje ngosenguphi ngimaphi ama border gates lapho khona Segulula VAT easy apply khona?
Just before that, emphasize and Kulumanga 5,000, I want to talk about the 10,000 also. If Timbatla Takoti above 10,000, from 10,000 and above, over and above my details akho ukuthi ungubani uhlala kuphi noma iaddress yakho siyayisibheka ukuthi kufuna usiphathelene proof of payment lapho. That is where we had my issues in the past week where some people brought in goods ukhanza ukuthi lama details abo akasahlangani, kusho ukuthi in the invoice ya above 10,000 and above akhona ama details alo muntu, but le proof of payment ukhanza ukuthi ayisahambisani naye, lokusho ukuthi nangabe usebenzise leyo internet banking on noma lelo card ukhanzise kunalo munye umuntu lokubhadalela, sithi konke kufuna kuhambisane kuze ito uqualify leyo invoice nasesiclaimer leyo mali. Ema border gates ke sithi our commercial border posts, kusho ukuthi kusengwenya bese kuba kuse ematsamo nasemananga, we have Lavumisa, Mahamba, and then Sandland. Those are the 6 border posts that qualify. Those border posts, let's say border Rishaguo is South Africa.
Okay, lastly, because your contact details, especially the WhatsApp.
Yes, our WhatsApp number 76063735, and then our contact center number is 246450. Sikonaga Facebook, Sikonaga LinkedIn. If people want to engage with us, they use all those platforms also.
Right, thank you, Ngosi. Thank you for joining us. Let's take a break. Asibuya si kulumane baga nature si bakulumisa nge World AIDS Day.
Eswatini Lifestyle is all about inspiration, drive, and swag. Eswatini Lifestyle is informative and fun while covering all aspects of life, be it people, places, and trends in the kingdom of Eswatini. We got you covered. The focus is on the quality of life. Eswatini Lifestyle will spark your interest. Catch Eswatini Lifestyle every Friday at 7:30 p.m. on Eswatini TV, Sibugo Semaswati.
What do you think the best part of traveling is? Is it the food, or is it the conversation, or is it the sights and sound? If you're ready to explore, we are ready to show you the best way how. will give you access to the best luxury getaway sites in the Kingdom of Eswatini, and of course show you vacation sites that suit your budget, because you do not need a lot of money to actually have a great time. Join us on the next adventure on Buhle Bethu, only on Eswatini TV.
Hello everyone and welcome to the show. You know the vibes, it's the beat down. The time is 8 p.m. It's time for you to relax, sit back, relax, and enjoy the music videos that I got for you.
Moving no direction, like it's a calling. Feel alive in the middle of nowhere. Shake the ground and burn the air. So yeah, yeah. You don't have to hold back for anything or anyone. Just on this.
Welcome back. Siyakuvusela nawo losanza kusivulela. It is the 1st of December. Mhlaplangene ubambisene nemave onke emhlaba ukuba iWorld AIDS Day. Livele Eswatini ke liyaligubha lelanga lapha eshiselweni eGilgal. Sibusisa ngubani lusuka enhlanganweni yaka Nature. Sifuna ukukhulumisana naye nje ngalo lelanga lanamuhla nobumcoka balo. I think sesiyibonile nje imibiko sole iveta ukuthi livele Eswatini solo lisebenza ngekuthi khandla kuzama kufika kulwa 95 sesifikile ke sendlula kulo 95 kepha ke kuvela nemibiko yokuthi solomanyo infections dinombolo otawo ayenyuka. Sekuvusele ngubani lomhla ekseni siyabonga ngosube nathi kungaba kuva nje ukuthi ingabe iprogress silivele Eswatini etindzabeni HIV and AIDS sesihambe kanganani kakhulu kade nje masibuka i-National Multi-Sectoral HIV and AIDS Strategic Framework 2018-2023 le iveta vele ukuthi livele Eswatini liphokophele ukuthi kube vele ne reduction of HIV incidents.
Sibonge lungelele ngivusele nembukeli ekhaya. Sibonga kusini kedala lithuba sinhlangano yaka Nature ukuthi njengoba usho ukuthi namuhla livela kangwane lihlanganyele nemhlaba wonke lapho khona likhumbula labo labasishile emhlabeni ngaso sifo se-AIDS nekukhuthaza nje labo labaphila naleli gciwane ukuthi abachubeke bayibambe njengoba imitamo yabo iyabonakala. Sikhuluma nje namuhla live lingilelinye lemave lahamba embili mhlaba wonke ekulweni naso sifo se-AIDS. Utawukhumbula lungelele ukuthi sisuka esikhatsini lapho khona simo sasimadima even kepha ngetinhlelo letitena uhulumende ngekubambisana netinhlangano letehlukene letisitako lona live sikhonile kuleli silive ukuthi sizuze lokukhulu ekulweni nayo i-HIV kakhulukazi nasikhuluma dona tindzaba tabo 95 lungelele uteka yona sibili futhi ukuthi besineluhlaka lapho besisebenza ngalo silive la kangwane kulwa nayo indzaba ye-HIV lesingathi i-National Strategic Multi-Sectoral Framework luphelile ke lungelele ngenyanga yendlovu lenkulu kulomnyaka kanti ke njengoba sikhuluma lungelele inhlangano yaka Nature ibambisene nato tinhlangano letahlukene kanye nahulumende basemkhankasweni wakwakha lolusha lihlaka lolutawubuka ke ukuthi kusuka nyalo siye embili sihamba njani. Umuntu utatibuta ke ukuthi ngabe kuloluhlaka leseliphelile sisebende njani. Lokhu sikhuluma ngale lesikuzuzile lolu kungenxa yalo loluhlaka ngoba besilandzela lona. Sesitawubuka ke nyalo ukuthi buya embili lokhu lesesikuzuzile silive sikugcina njani ukuthi singabuyeli emuva. Bese ngetulu kwaloko sesibuka ke ukuthi kunetikhebesi letivetiwe lungelele kuletinye tinhlangothi tebantu even kufaka ekhatsi umfana loyintombatane adolescent girls and young women kufaka ekhatsi nabalesithi ma key populations le kufaka tinhlangothi letehlukene tebantu labaphila ngendlela lengakajwayeleki kufaka ekhatsi nemadvoza. Ngilapho kenyalo la kufuna siqinise khona tinhlelo tethu ukuthi njengoba kubonakala ukuthi kunesikhebesi kuleto tinhlangothi sizivala njani leso sikhebesi lungelele.
Kuyevakala ngubane sifuna ukuva ukuthi nasibuka nje tindzaba tema HIV new infections I think iyeke yavela imibiko yokuthi iyakhula njalo ikhule nga over 4000 ngeminyaka ingabe loku nanibuka nje mhlambe nanisenda licwaningo lweni nature yimfo lendeka kanjani lena especially because sesifikile kulo 95.
Lungelele uteka yona sibili kepha nje kufika kule dinombolo losobekisa ngato tehlile nasisuka eminyakeni wa 2016 lokhu nje sesimela ku 4000 lokwendekile lungelele utawukhumbula ukuthi sibe esikhatsini sa covid covid kuningi lokwendekile utawukhumbula ukuthi tikolo betivaliwe bamfana bahlete emakhaya davela dinombolo tebantfana labakhulelwe ngaleso sikhathi lokukhomba ukuthi kusesekhona lokuthi bantu baye ecansini bangadiphephisi letinombolo ikakhulukazi lungelele la tenyuka khona lokusikhatsatako nathi sinhlangano yakaNecha nalo live tinyuka buye umfana lo intombatana lesingathi nje labasuka eminyakeni eli15 kuya eminyakeni engamashumi 15 to 24 kanti ke nasubuka umlingano wakhe lomfana lo kungumfana lokuleyo minyaka leyo kuye tinombolo soloti phansi kepha ke letinombolo bese tiyachubeka lungelele nasobuya kulabo babe lele sebaqala kusebenza kuya eTuru sengilapho setenyuka khona lokho kwesekukhomba ukuthi kunebudlelwane thite kulokwenyuka kwelizinga le kutholakala kabusha kwaleligciwane kulabantu kulomfana lo intombatane kanye nalabo babe labasebentako lokufaka ekhathi indzaba yokuthi intergenerational sex uphindze kube nenzaba yabo transactional sex lapho khona ubona uyathi ukuthi sibuya emakhaya lahlukene timo tetfatifanani kukhona ke labo lokhanza ukuthi beswele ngenzaba yokweswela sotathi khanza umfana seka gijimela kumbe loyo babe lomzala lotawukhona ukuthi amsite ngaloko lokuthite ukuthi akhona naye ukuthi aphile njengalabanye abantwana ngiko kulokhanza ukuthi kuba kuyimbangela lenkhulu yako lokuthi kumbe lokutholakala kabusha kwaleligciwane kwenyuke even sekunanaleti inhlangothi ke tabo key populations bengitibalako lungelele ukuthi nato ngetizathu letitsite ukhanza ukuthi abakhoni kuthola lusito ngendlela le bayithokotelako emitholampilo ngilokunye lotawukhanza ukuthi ke abasaye emtholampilo bese kuba indzaba yabo bobabe ke lungelele utawukhumbula ukuthi babe uyinhloko yelikhaya esikhatsini lesiningi ufuna atiqinise noma ngathiwa sekubhlungu kuphi ngeke afune ukukhombisa abantwana noma ke ukuthi afune kuyemtholampilo kuyothola lusito lokunye lokutawuholela ekutheni ukhanze ukuthi sibuyela emuva ikakhulukazi kuto tindzaba tekunyuka kwawo lama new infections dungelele
ngenxa yesikhathi njengobana kumbe kwakugcina nje sifuna kuva ukuthi ingabe umsebenzi lapho kubheke ukuthi uhambe kanjani sivile lokuthi vele nidaba neligubha losuku lamhla lapha eGilgal tikhuluma nje letibhekekile ukuthi tikhulume lamuhla
bonge lungelele namuhla vele sikhona enkundleni yaseGilgal ningithola nje ecingweni sengivele ngikhona khona umsebenzi wanamuhla utawuqala nyalo nje nakugabanga insimbi yesikhombisa lapho kutabe nemshuco nje kukhuthatha sona takhamuti talendzawo ukuthi namhla silana ngumsebenzi ke lona lungelele lo sesigabeni selovisi landvunankulu njengoba utawukhumbula ukuthi inhlangano yakaNecha engaphasi kwalo lovisi landvunankulu ngekweukuthi nje umhlonishwa ndvunankulu usetho ngilomnye umsebenzi semba ukuthi liphini lakhe umhlonishwa Kusile Dladla nguye lotawusethulela inkulumo yakhe umhlonishwa ndvunankulu kutaba khona ke naletinye sikhulumi letifaka khona tona tinintelive letisibambisile kuyo lenzaba yekulwa ne-HIV ngumsebenzi nje lotaba mkhulu sibili lungelele sifika lana nje sibuya nasetifundzeni lapho khona nakhona besigubha lona lusuku lwe-World AIDS Day kuto tonke tifundza telive lokusesigabeni selive lonke namuhla
Vakala simakhulu ngubane sethemba ukuthi indaba nelanga lelihle khona lapho eGilgal. Mbukeli bekunguye ke lo acting head of communication kaNecha Sibusiso ngubane sivedela nje sithombe semsebenzi walamuhla ukugubha iWorld AIDS Day. Asibahlete mangethana sibuya sibuka simo semgwaqo lomhlekuseni.
Do you remember the spinning thing? This is us. This picture represents what we did. We were there when coronavirus wreaked havoc in our population. Together with other stakeholders, we formed the first line
controlling the spread of the unknown and unseen enemy of the people. Anxious ourselves, we collected dead bodies countrywide at the time when no one wanted to come near dead bodies of loved ones. We did care for our fellow citizens. Thank you, the people of Eswatini and teams of first responders.
Asimze sinamukele ngu4 minutes before 7 sitawubuka sema somgwaco nyalo ekseni na Constable Ntombenhle asivusele mdolo kuhambeka kanjani lo mhla ekseni.
Ngikuvusele Makagula, ngivusele naye umbukeli wekusile breakfast show. Imigwaco elivela kaNgwane sesihlolile cishe yonkana. Imigwaco kulolu suku lanamuhla ibonakala iyahambeka cishe yonkana kude lokungakanani lokuthi sikabedo. Noma ke lokungamphazamisa losebenzisa umgwaco ukuthi afike lapho aphokophele kufika khona. Besingakubika nje kulolu suku lanamuhla kungaba ngiko kwekuthi na usuka khona umgwaco losuka khona ngelehele uye esiphofaneni kusuka lapha eMkhosi uye eGilgal sigazile nakugabanya insimbi yesikhombisa kwekuthi kutabe kunemshutho lapho losemsethweni. Bantu ke batabe bahamba ngetinyawo basebenzisa umvila lokubheka khona esiphofaneni. Imotolo ke tibhekekile ukuthi titabe tiphambana kuwo umvila lobheka ngakhona kamanzini. Siyakhuthaza nje bashayeli na basasebenzisa leyo mgwaco ukuthi basinakele khona lapho. Lokunye ke lesingakhumbuta yena umbukeli kungaba ngonje umgwaco losuka khona enyalinyali ubheke khona kahlathi usuka nje enyalinyali kuya kumehlwa bovu. Ubakhumbuta ukuthi umgwaco lapho awusiwo umgwaco losesimeni lesikahle kwathi sephela ukuthi uhamba ugugubuliwe kuletinye tindzawo. Lokugubulwa kwenta ukuthi umshayeli nakahamba kulo mgwaco nakahamba ngelitubane lelikhulu igcine imotolo ingakhoni kulawuleka kulesinye isikhathi igcine seyiphumile khona esandleni semshayeli. Kanti ke kuletinye tigaba letiyela selifakiwe kanti ke asengadwetshwa wona emalayini sithi nje sive seNkosi sisasebenzisa leyo mgwaco asikunake lokho. Lomunye umgwaco lesiuhlolile umgwaco losuka khona eGalile uye khona eJericho kunetindvunduma temhlabathi letibekiwe khona emgwacweni letendelwa ukuthi kulungiswe wona umgwaco. Sithi nje bashayeli la khona timotolo tingakhoni kuphambana khona ababekedelelane kuze ukuthi baphephe basawusebenzisa nawo lo mgwaco. Emadolobheni elivela kaNgwane ke tiba netemgwaco tonke tiyasebenta kanti ke nemigwaco lengenela kuwo lamadolobha iyahambeka kude lokungakanani lesingakubikela yena umshayeli. Ngale kwaloko Thombeni imigwaco elivela kaNgwane iyahambeka kungaba kufisela yena umbukeli usuku loluhle naloluphephile basetawusebenzisa yona imigwaco elivela kaNgwane.
Sibakho Ndolo kusinike dalo yombiko. It's 2 minutes before 7. Let's take a break. Sibene tindzaba singisi.
We at Eswatini Television Authority are committed to observing the Eswatini Communication Commission's Broadcasting Code of Conduct.
Under the code, we are committed to broadcast news that is current, free from hate speech, accurate, balanced, and fair.
From politics to business, health, agriculture, courts, and global news, we bring you the latest updates as they happen, when they happen.
We cover all the sporting codes from the football pitch to the chessboards.
This is Eswatini TV News.
Welcome back. This is the news at 7. The Prime Minister Russell Dlamini has arrived in Dubai in the United Arab Emirates to represent His Majesty King Mswati III during COP28.
The Prime Minister arrived through the Dubai International Airport here at the United Arab Emirates. The Prime Minister is in Dubai to represent His Majesty King Mswati III during the COP28 Climate Change Summit. The conference has been held annually since the first UN Climate Agreement in 1992. The COP conferences are intended for governments to agree on policies to limit global temperatures rises and adapt to impacts associated with climate change. In early 2021, the United Arab Emirates offered to host the 2023 event, and in November 2021, the Prime Minister and Vice President of the United Arab Emirates, Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum, announced that the UAE would be hosting the 2023 conference. It was the second time in 2 years that the conference was held in the Middle East, and the third time it was hosted by a member of OPEC after Qatar in 2012 and Indonesia in 2007. The United Arab Emirates is one of the most climate vulnerable countries in the world due to its very hot and humid climate. The observed annual average mean surface air temperature in the UAE has risen by 1.27% degrees Celsius between 1990 and 2022. According to the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, the UAE is making efforts to reduce emissions in many ways across different sectors of its economy. The UAE pledged to reduce carbon emissions to net zero by 2050, the first Middle Eastern government to make such a pledge. It was the first country in the region to sign the Paris Agreement in 21st September 2016. The country has invested $50 billion into clean energy internationally and promised an additional $50 billion by 2030. In November 2022, the UAE agreed to partner with the United States to invest another $100 billion in clean energy. President Joe Biden and Pope Francis are expected to attend the United Nations Climate Change Conference. The Prime Minister will represent His Majesty alongside the Minister for Tourism, Jane Mkonda, and the Minister for Foreign Affairs, Polile Shakantu. For Eswatini TV News, I am Lincoln Gule in Dubai.
The Office of the Hoho Regional Administrator has officially introduced the Minister of Tinkundla and Administration's Kumbuzo Dlamini to Hoho Chiefs and Bantwa Benkosi. Representing the RA, Princess Tanzile was the Hoho Regional Secretary Sibusiso Dlamini, who urged Chiefs and Bantwa Benkosi to support the Minister and his ministry as they have been entrusted with this national responsibility by His Majesty the King.
When introducing the minister, the regional secretary Sibusiso Dlamini said it is important for chiefdoms to work closely with Tinkundla, as that is where national development is rooted. The minister said his ministry is committed in assisting the country in as far as chiefdoms development is concerned. He said this could, however, be achieved only through collaboration with chiefs and Bantwa Benkosi.
Kubabelo ukuthi ingonyama yemhlaba ikhulumile sonke sivile emaswati akhulumile sibayeni dinengi tindwe emaswati lakhale ngade ukuthi ngakuthi vele siyawuthi sisebenza selitiko nathi licondzene nathi sitinkundla asisho ukuthi vele siyatinikela la ekutheni sitawubambisana nelive la ekutheni kulesifunye kona kwenteke nekubambisana nabo babetikhulu nabantu benkosi ikakhulu ngoba vele sowushido lomele umphathi sifundza lalo ukuthi konke nentuthuko nawo konke kukhungele kubo bobabe nangaye bobabe sabashiya ngemuva angesifikile la simakuya khona.
Chiefs and Bantwa Benkosi took the opportunity to urge the government to provide sufficient resources for service delivery at community level, such as allocating a government truck to each chiefdom. They also called for the constitution to be availed to the nation so as to familiarize themselves with it. Reporting for Eswatini TV News is Bongos Makakula at Pittsburgh.
The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Planning and Development, Kusile Mlangeni, says government is now prioritizing Sustainable Development Goal number 8, which when fully achieved will enable the attainment of the rest of the goals by the year 2030. Kusile Mlangeni has said this during an interview with Eswatini TV at the induction workshop for members of the 12th Parliament, which is being held at the Happy Valley Hotel in Zulini.
On day 4 of the Parliamentarians' induction workshop, the participants were taken through the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which the country has to attain by the year 2030.
Leminyaka lemi-7 besele yini lesingakwenda sisheshe ukhona leli siwubukile lokho ukuthi uma singaconza lo umgomo wokukhulisa umnotho wekwakha amathuba emisebenzi lolokunye kudabe sekuyasebenzeka nako ngoba lokhu kunemthelela lomkhulu kuyo yonke leminye imigomo lengisebenzile. Lokunye lobe sikwethula kubahlonishwa ukuthi bakwadi basangena ukuthi sine National Development Plan. Luhlelo lokuthuthukisa lelive lolukhava iminyaka lesihlanu.
Clerk to Parliament Benedict Gaba says, by virtue of their office, parliamentarians are duty-bound to ensure that the country attains the Sustainable Development Goals.
Very important for members of parliament, more especially that they are new in office, to understand or to take the National Development Plan as part of their Bible, as they are coming from different constituencies. So they'll understand the priorities of government, and also they'll hold government accountable to what it has been prioritized in the development plan.
The Principal Secretary Kusile Mlangeni also explained that more than 80% of the kingdom's population has access to electricity power, which makes the kingdom one of the best in providing this service. On the news, I'm Mbongwa Dube in Babane.
The Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Public Service, Sipho Tabete, says his ministry is not responsible for change of some information, especially surnames of married civil servants on the government system. Tabete says one of the contributing factors to this mishap is the repeal of the graded tax law, which was effected by government a few months ago. Tabete was speaking during a press conference at the ministry's headquarters in Babane.
The repeal of this piece of legislation has therefore compelled the Ministry of Public Service to comply by updating the system. This process is carried out automatically using personal identity numbers. This update entails integrating the Human Resource Management Information System with the Population Register. The custodian of the Population Register is the Ministry of Home Affairs. The integration of the system has revealed that some information presented by public servants to the Ministry of Home Affairs does not tally with information contained in the Human Resource Management Information System. The Ministry appreciates the inconvenience caused to those affected and wishes to extend its profound apologies. All affected individuals are accordingly advised to liaise with the Ministry of Home Affairs for any assistance in relation to their personal identity information. An update into the population register system will automatically update the information appearing in our human resource management information system.
The Ministry of Health's intervention of launching an antenatal care unit at the Mbabane Government Hospital has saved lives. Deputy Director of Health, Dr. Bongiwe Malinga, says Prematurely Commemoration Day allows the ministry to reflect on the intervention by government, which includes a partnership with Pretoria University that will help health facilities in different communities to provide health services for healthy preterm babies. Dr. Bongiwe was speaking during the commemoration held in Mbabane.
The Ministry of Health has made a difference in restoring joy to families with preterm babies. Speaking during the commemoration of the World Prematurely Day, Dr. Bongiwe Malinga shares some of the remarkable interventions that government has put in place to serve prematurely babies.
it was to introduce a neonatal ICU, which is an ICU for newborn babies, where newborn babies that are sick and those who are preterm are taken care of so that they grow very well. We know that preterm babies, most of the times they struggle with breathing, they struggle with their lungs, they struggle with their heart, they struggle with suckling. They are usually very, very fragile and delicate. But because of this unit that was established 2 years ago here in Mbabane government, we have seen a great improvement on the outcomes of those babies.
Dr. Eunice Ruhida, the head of antenatal care unit at the Mbabane Government Hospital, says their job was made easier by the launch of the antenatal care unit.
The Ministry of Health, with partnership with UNICEF and UK Aid, opened the first neonatal ICU in the country. That made a huge difference that I cannot explain right now.
Pumzile Mamba, a mother, says her child was 565 grams and they were discharged when the child was plus 2 kg.
Mbabane government ngifike ngasitakala kakhulu because the mangifika njena umfana beka weya 565 grams.
Mamba says she received all the necessary assistance at the Mbabane Government Hospital. The government of Eswatini's health interventions are in line with Sustainable Development Goal number 3, which speaks to access to health services for all. Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni, Vumingo Sinzinisa, Mbabane.
The Minister of Education and Training, Acting Principal Secretary Naniki Mnisi, says government wishes to take the Early Childhood Care and Development Program, which is for minors under 6 years, to the rural areas of the country. She said this during the launch of the findings of the study in the country.
The research on early childhood care and development was carried out for over 3 years at Gamsunduza. The Minister of Education and Training, Acting Principal Secretary Naniki Mnisi, says ECCDE plays a huge role in children's brain development.
The Ministry will be looking at increasing access to ECCD in rural public institutions through supporting the inception of grade 0 in more than 300 rural public primary schools. Indeed, it is one step at a time, we hope that there will come a time when government will consider making ECCD, that is to say grade 0, part of the support given under the free primary education program.
The University of Eswatini Vice Chancellor, Professor Justice Twala, says some of the findings of the research includes policy matters that need to be addressed as soon as possible.
While all parents expressed a strong desire to send their children to preschool, there were a number of challenges they are faced with. The high cost of preschool education in a context of high unemployment and inequality limit access of children to ECE.
The Minister of Education and Training, Early Childhood Care and Development Inspector, Dr. Tutu Hlope, says currently there are over 1,800 qualified teachers with diplomas and certificates in ECCDE.
Most children in Eswatini reach primary school age lacking essential basic skills for school readiness, which is the brain stimulation, which is the manipulative skills, which is early literacy, as well as early numeracy. This is due to the lack of access to ECCD services, which are remaining low among children mainly from the poor rural communities.
Most speakers during the event, including Dr. Christiana McMillan from the University of Edinburgh, that assisted in the research, speak about the importance of safety in the ECCDE centers. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla, with Themba Shabangwe Zulwini.
His Majesty's Correctional Services Commissioner General Pindile Lamakosini Lamini says inmates and HMCS staff get 100% health care services. Lamini said this during the World AIDS Day commemoration by the institution.
On Thursday at the Matapa Correctional Staff College Sports Ground, His Majesty Correctional Services, together with their partners, hosted their annual AIDS Day commemoration. Speaking during the event, Commissioner General Pindile Dlamini thanked the partners for sticking together with the institution at any time when it comes to matters of HIV/AIDS.
We are about to finish our wellness policy. Officers.
She further commits that the institution will support all programs. The country has only issues of HIV/AIDS. The Minister of Health, Manzini Acting Regional Matron, Samuel Swenzinisa, says it is important for stakeholders to look into addressing issues of key populations. On the other hand, Nature Programs Coordinator Sidney Ngambule says His Majesty Correctional Services introduced many initiatives in the fight against HIV/AIDS.
Siltiko nathi sithi asiqhubeke to thoroughly profile our service consumers to ensure that we provide responsive services.
Very comprehensive interventions lewendile ibenato tibhedlela yawenda ema prevention services yawenda ema treatment care and support yawenda yabanakekela nje bonke abantu labagulako noma ngangiluphi ihlobo yize bana correctional.
Representing Unites is Sindiso Dlamini. He applauds Eswatini for being able to reduce HIV/AIDS by 70% since 2010. For Eswatini TV News, Fortune Dlangamandla. Visual source from His Majesty Correctional Services Communications Department.
The National Disaster Management Agency has issued an update on El Nino for November 2023. Indication shows that El Nino has transitioned from moderate El Nino conditions towards strong El Nino conditions.
The El Nino condition has developed rapidly since winter, reaching a level consistent with a moderate El Nino by September 2023. The National Disaster Management Agency's report states that El Nino ENSO was valued around 1.3 in October 2023, while the current value is around 1.5 in November 2023. The report suggests an intensified warming of the sea surface, which could have significant implication for global weather patterns. The update reveals that most constituencies maintained normal conditions, indicating a consistent rainfall. These areas with more rains is likely to be attributed to the heavy rainfall experienced in the country over the last month. The report says that the overall environmental and atmospheric conditions highlight the importance of regular monitoring and timely interventions in areas showing increased drought stresses, ensuring effective disaster management. The report further shows that El Nino phenomenon intensifies across the globe. The Kingdom of Eswatini faces paradoxical situation of abundant rainfall and extreme temperatures, especially in the Lubombo region. The report says the recent downpours have replenished the surface water resources, especially the 5 major dams in the country, which are above 90% of their storage capacity. However, the prevailing high temperatures may increase the rate of evaporation and reduce water availability in the long run. For Eswatini TV News, Sondomlangeni, Mbabane.
And in our international news, two Palestinian attackers opened fire at a bus stop during the morning rush hour on Thursday at the entrance to Jerusalem, killing at least 3 people and wounding 8 others, Israel police said. The shooters came from East Jerusalem and were stopped by off-duty soldiers and another civilian who was nearby, police said.
The attack was caught on a security camera. A car pulls over at a hitchhiking station near Jerusalem Central Station. 2 men get out and open fire repeatedly.
This morning at 7:38, a vehicle with 2 terrorists on board, armed with an M16 and a handgun, got out and targeted a hitchhiking station. Very quickly, 2 soldiers standing nearby and a civilian neutralized the terrorists who were killed.
This put an end to the killing spree. Police say that the shooters, 2 Palestinians from East Jerusalem, had large quantities of ammunition in their vehicle.
It's a miracle. We were really close. If the driver had gone 100 meters further, we could have been the targets for the terrorists.
While police try to reassure residents, saying Israeli forces are deployed everywhere to avert new attacks, the divisive Minister of National Security said that Thursday's events proved he was right to encourage Israelis to get more firearms.
This event proves another thing, the importance of distributing weapons. Despite criticism from various people, I will keep the policy of weapon distribution in any place.
Ben-Gvir added that since the 2 shooters were believed to be linked to Hamas, this proves Israel should stop its truce with the group and resume fighting in the Gaza Strip.
An 8-year-old boy and a teenager were killed by the Israeli army on Wednesday in the occupied West Bank city of Jenin, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. The ministry said that Adam, 8 years old, and Bassem, 15 years old, were killed by bullets from the occupier.
Hence scenes in the West Bank. Tuesday evening, an 8-year-old and a 15-year-old were killed by Israeli forces, according to the Palestinian Authority. Fighting between the IDF and Palestinians is almost daily since the October 7 attacks. The Israeli military conducts regular raids in the West Bank, like here in the Jenin refugee camp.
They launched an attack on the area and now they have demolished the house.
On Tuesday, the IDF blocked the entrance to the Khalil Suleiman hospital, preventing the wounded from being treated, according to the president of the NGO, Doctors Without Borders. 2 patients without access to the hospital died in ambulances.
There is no way for any of the injured patients to reach the hospital, and there's no way for us to reach these people. There's nothing worse for a doctor to know that there are people there needing our care and they cannot get it.
In Jenin, a stronghold for armed Palestinians, 5 people were killed this weekend after an Israeli incursion. Since the 7th of October, 2,500 Palestinians have been arrested in the West Bank, according to Le Monde, and more than 230 were killed by Israeli soldiers or settlers.
Israel's army said on Wednesday it was investigating a report by Hamas' armed wing that a 10-month-old baby hostage, his 4-year-old brother and their mother had all been killed in Gaza. The Biba's family are among the highest-profile hostages seized in the Hamas attacks on southern Israel on October 7th due to the age of baby Kafar.
Their abduction was one of the most striking images from the day the war broke out. Shiri Bibas and her 2 boys, Kfir and Ariel, were dragged out of their kibbutz near Oz and taken to Gaza. At 9 months, Kfir was the youngest of Hamas hostages. He and his 4-year-old brother Ariel became symbols of the hostages held by Hamas.
We didn't want them to become a symbol. We didn't want that Hamas will use that because they are a symbol, they will use that to do a harder negotiation. The kids, you don't need to negotiate about it.
When Israel and Hamas reached a deal exchanging Israeli hostages for Palestinian prisoners and a truce, the Bibas brothers were expected to be among the first released. But after all the young children were let go, they were still missing. On Wednesday, the group said the boys and their mother were killed, adding that the cause of death was an Israeli bombing. Benny Gantz was with the family as the statement came in.
It was a painful meeting already, and it became even more painful with the latest developments. As we sat down together, media reports arrived, and although they are not confirmed, they are painful. I don't know if it's true or not true, if it's part of a brutal psychological warfare led by our cruel enemies.
The Bibas family, too, said this may be part of a psychological warfare and is waiting to get an official assessment from the army.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is back in the Middle East, holding talks on Thursday with Israeli and Palestinian officials and coming out with an unusually blunt message to Israel about the next phase of its war against Hamas.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was back in Israel for the fourth time since the October 7th terrorist attack by Hamas, pushing to have the truce with Hamas extended again, and calling in unusually frank language for protections for Palestinian civilians whenever fighting resumes.
We discussed the details of Israel's ongoing planning, and I underscored the imperative to the United States that the massive loss of civilian life and displacement of the scale that we saw in northern Gaza not be repeated in the south. As I told the Prime Minister, intent matters, but so does the result.
Israeli media reported that behind closed doors, Blinken told the Israeli War Cabinet that they likely have weeks, not months, to prosecute the war against Hamas. Asked if the U.S. had suggested a time limit on the war, Blinken did not answer directly, reiterating American support for Israel's right to defend itself, but again saying it is imperative that Palestinian civilians and their infrastructure not be targeted during the next phase. One veteran analyst told VOA he had fully expected Blinken to deliver a firm message from U.S. President Joe Biden to Israeli leaders amid the mounting pressure caused by the reported deaths of more than 15,000 Palestinians in Gaza in Israeli attacks.
If and when Israel resumes fighting, do not use the same tactics that you used the first time, where you worried more about getting Hamas than killing innocent civilians, particularly if you decide to bomb in the south.
Another expert told VOA that there is a lot of tension behind the scenes between top U.S. and Israeli officials over the protection of Palestinian civilians and the future of Gaza and the West Bank.
And so this is a really interesting moment for the United States government. What is it going to do? Is it going to reassess its relationship with Israel and its unconditional military support? Or is it going to get a little bit tougher and put that military support on the table?
Some Democratic lawmakers have called on Israel to use restraint and not bomb heavily populated areas in Gaza, saying the U.S. could put conditions on its military aid. Earlier Thursday, Blinken arrived in an armored convoy in Ramallah for talks with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. Abbas stressed the unity of Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza and called for a lasting ceasefire.
A UN Commission of Inquiry investigating war crimes on both sides of the Israel-Hamas conflict will focus on sexual violence by Hamas in the October 7th attacks on Israel and is about to launch an appeal for evidence, its chair told Reuters on Wednesday.
Human rights groups have long documented the plight of women in armed conflicts who are consistently the targets of sexual violence. Horrifying accounts of the 7th of October would suggest Hamas's attack on Israel is no exception. Until recently, those testimonies largely fell under the radar of international bodies who avoided addressing the issue. The UN Secretary-General broke his silence on the allegations this week.
There are also numerous accounts of sexual violence during attacks that must be vigorously investigated and prosecuted. Gender-based violence must be condemned anytime, anywhere.
A UN Commission of Inquiry investigating war crimes on both sides of the conflict has now announced it would be focusing on sexual violence by Hamas and would be launching an appeal for evidence. It comes after Israel held a meeting at the UN in Geneva to sound the alarm and criticise the delay.
We expected a clear and loud statements that say that there is no justification for using the bodies of women as a weapon of war. None of this came until now.
Rape and sexual assault are considered war crimes. Hamas denies that its fighters were involved in such acts. Israeli police, meanwhile, has been leading its own investigation into the allegations. At a Knesset hearing this week, a police investigator presented graphic testimonies of sexual assault, abuse and mutilation collected from survivors. The investigation is particularly complex because it relies on witnesses, social media videos or Hamas body cam footage and lacks any DNA evidence. Activists fear that without sufficient forensic proof, justice may never be served.
Farmers in Gaza were taking advantage of the truce between Israel and Hamas to harvest what was left of their olives after weeks of fighting, during which they dared not to go to their lands for fear of getting killed. In a normal year, the harvest would have started weeks earlier, but until the truce, farmers were afraid of being mistaken for Hamas militants and targeted by Israeli forces if they ventured out into the olive groves.
Race against time to save what little they can, as olive farmers in Gaza take advantage of the truce between Israel and Hamas to start their harvest, weeks behind schedule. Most have stayed away from their groves, fearful of being mistaken for Hamas militants and targeted by Israeli forces.
Since the war, we've been unable to come. Many olives have fallen without being picked. Thank God there's been this truce so that we can come pick them.
The weeks of massive Israeli bombardment and ground invasion that have killed at least 15,000 Palestinians have also severely damaged Gaza's olive groves. Many farmers say this year's haul is too little, too late.
We usually collect 12 times what we have now. This war has destroyed us. There's hardly any production. The majority of the harvest has been wasted.
Most of the harvest is usually pressed into olive oil. But with fuel and thus electricity extremely scarce, that too has become exceedingly difficult.
When the truce began, we didn't know if we were going to work. The olive press needs electricity, and there is no electricity, meaning we had to find fuel, and finding fuel is a crisis that everyone is facing.
Gaza normally produces some 30,000 tons of olives each year, a key economic lifeline in one of the world's most impoverished and overcrowded enclaves.
The UN Climate Conference opened on Thursday with the nations urged to make faster cuts to planet warming emissions and phase out fossil fuels as skepticism swirls over the oil-rich United Arab Emirates hosting the talks. The two-week-long negotiations in a vast exhibition venue in Dubai came at a pivotal moment, with emissions still climbing and the UN saying this year is likely to be the hottest in human history.
Make polluters pay. That's the message these activists have for COP28, calling for a tax on big oil to pay for the damage done to the climate. They're referring to one of the key objectives of the summit, the so-called Loss and Damage Fund, to compensate countries that have suffered climate change-related disasters. The fund was adopted at COP27 in Egypt last year, but is yet to take shape, with details on financing and beneficiaries undecided. Another significant issue is whether countries can deliver on a pledge made in Paris in 2015 to maintain global warming below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. The UN said recently the world was on track for 2.9 degrees of warming and called on countries to accelerate their efforts. Some want the Dubai summit to produce a pledge to reduce or eliminate the use of fossil fuels. Oil and gas-producing countries are expected to resist this, including the president of COP28, Sultan Al Jaber. He's also the head of the UAE's state oil company ADNOC. The BBC has reported that the Emirati delegation was briefed to use the summit as an opportunity to strike deals for ADNOC. The UAE is promoting the use of emerging technologies to capture and store CO2 emissions, though this approach has been criticised for being expensive, time-consuming and lacking incentive. COP28 is set to be the biggest one ever, with 70,000 participants expected.
In our sports news, the national team Sihlangu Semnikati has dropped in the latest FIFA rankings, where they are now ranked 149 out of 210 nations under FIFA in the world. National team head coach Dominic Gunene says the rankings are a clear message that they clearly need to work hard in the future in order to improve the rankings.
National team Sihlangu Semnikati has dropped in the latest FIFA rankings,
where they are now ranked 149th out of 210 nations under FIFA. Sihlangu Semnikati's recent rankings in October this year saw the nation standing at 146th in position. During the entire Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers and the World Cup qualifiers this year, Sihlangu did not win any single game. Best ever rankings for Sihlangu in the history saw them ranking 88th in the world, while their worst saw them ranking 190. National team head coach Dominic Munene says the rankings are a clear message that they clearly need to work hard in the future in order to improve the rankings. World champions are Argentina, who still tops the rankings, while first African nation is Morocco, who are 13th. South Africa are ranked 66th, while neighboring countries Lesotho are above Sihlangu, where they are ranked 148th. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrizio Msonera, Mbabane.
We've come to the end of our bulletin. Thank you for staying with us. After the break, we'll be talking sports weekend news.
Right, 38 minutes after 7 kwanelo muhle sibonge ukuthi solo uhleli nathi ake sikhulumise Demi Dlalo sitaqala one said one. Fabrice, as I welcome you to the program, it actually makes sense. We just watched a story. Let's combine Sihlangu Semnikati has dropped 3 positions Kuma FIFA rankings from 146 to 149, which is the worst position this year. Such a bad position to end the year. We're still celebrating with Ngena good December, end of the year. A lot of exciting things have happened. Let's not say development. But a politic Nazi opposite.
There's a question mark.
Yeah.
149 out of 210 countries under FIFA at large. Then you ask yourself, what are we doing? Because for the entire 2023, there's no single game that Sihlangu Semnikati managed to win under the AFCON qualifiers and the World Cup qualifiers. Nothing. Because make no mistake, CAF or FIFA, they don't consider COSAF. Abayat, no, we are. So even if we can come home with COSAFA and we're the champions, we still remain 149. If we don't win any game in qualifiers of the Africa Cup of Nations or the World Cup. Look at Lesotho. Lesotho recently, they drew against Nigeria away. And there was recently, I think, in October, when they were 146, Lesotho were 170 something, 173. Look how they are now moved. If they win 1 or 2 games in the next FIFA week, you could see them jumping to early around 110. So it's a disaster because we're not doing anything to improve. So for me, I'm not shocked. I think yesterday when FIFA was announcing that soon the rankings will be released, I knew we will drop by virtue of looking at how we played.
Yeah, but worst position for the year, Fabrice, is quite sad. And I mean, I think the biggest takeaway for us should be, what is the lesson here? And I know you did speak on maybe the EFA needs to, tighten some of, or improve, really, improve. But also even the team in itself has a lot of changes to make.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about performance, like I've said, I think I need to say, I've taught, I've highlighted, we need now to preach it. We cannot talk about the results if the house is not in order. We need to do a lot of, in-house, we need to set up new studying house. We need to change how we're doing things. Yes, we coach, we can change the team, but if we're not doing things properly, if we don't have development programs, if we don't play friendlies, if we don't have a stadium, or right now we cannot say let's construct it and ipele, but let's finish and at least do something about some sort of now. Then maybe next year we start a plan of building a new stadium. We can't go anywhere. We can't. We get and it's a contradiction, because Gupumatsine journalist, we say CAF has ranked us as the best 11th league in Africa. It can't be possible. I cannot be 11 in Africa, but in rankings, look where I am, 149.
Tail end.
Then it's a very contradiction. Because when you talk about out of 53, 54 countries in Africa, we're 11th. Then why are we not ranked 100 or 90 in the world? Because then 11 countries, if you look at the countries that are above us, you're talking about Ghana, maybe you're talking about Egypt, Algeria. And look at where they are. They're in the early 60s. South Africa is ranked 66 in the world. So it's not possible that you can be ranked 11th in Africa, league-wise, in the world we are like this.
What do we do then? Because as you have highlighted all the problems that we have, to me, as a viewer, even for someone who's on the outside looking in, I could say, maybe let's divert these funds to another sport. I can make an example. Swimming is doing great. I think they could do with this kind of funding that Sihlangu gets. I think we saw recently even on the team level, basa travela. And one ought to ask themselves, there are other sports that could really do with this kind of money and develop.
I will highlight this. I'm not saying let's stop football in the country, but what you're highlighting, I'll give you an example. Go to India. The budget of the cricket national team is bigger than the budget of the football team because they know where the strength is. Go to Kenya. They will show you the budget, and Ethiopia, they will show you the budget of athletics. It's very high compared to what you should giving the national team. Because you know what? The strength are with athletics. I'm not saying let's football.
That's just realistic.
Luca Fraser was in the studio. He is 24,000 richer from Rwanda in the Zone 3 games. He's got 2 golds, 1 silver, 1 bronze. He came with those medals. I know football is a loved sport. Because I'll give you an example. Some other countries are doing something and you're seeing the results. Let's not talk about the Germans of this world and everything. Go to Lesotho. Lesotho, we saw what they did in the in the COSAFA. The coach didn't give them what they want. Bam coach. And they're using now development squads and everything. They're improving. In AFCON qualifier, the World Cup qualifiers, they went to Lagos in Nigeria. They held Nigeria to a not draw.
I'm telling you, Fabrice, I think this is the conversation that we should be having.
That's why people are saying now, I don't know if we should say we should need football or we need Sitlang in Daba, but we need to sit and talk about this issue.
Maybe at this point, football shouldn't get first preference. Let's be realistic.
Let's be realistic. Taekwondo goes out of the country every day. They come back with
something.
You talk about, a lot of associations.
We just had good reviews for chess from, who's this guy again? Nigel Short.
Yeah, Nigel
Short. Really good reviews from him.
Yeah. We had a team actually from India, the national team, the women's national team. They went to India at the Olympiad. It's sort of like Olympics when it comes to chess. They return home with the gold medal. Olympiad. It's like going to the Olympic Games and you come back with the gold medal. And we're not doing anything about those girls. If we can ask anyone, where are the girls who got the gold medal in India? No way. But I'm not saying let's go and let go of Sitlango, but let's just give other sport codes a focus, because it is really, really frustrating to pump in money. Like I highlighted the other day, I'm not saying let's give our players money like South Africa. Bafana, when Hugo Bruce just calls the 23 players to feature or to train camp-wise, Not to say, Sfiso, you will start in the 11. Just part of the 23 players. The bonus that you're supposed to get is 50,000.
Wow.
50,000. Just that he called you, 50,000. For us, there's no standard place.
For the player.
Is there a standard place to say that when Dominic Nene calls 24 players, you get 10,000? No, there's nothing like that. An incentive. Football now, it's a business industry. If you don't motivate the players, nothing. No results.
And the kind of talent that we are motivating, it can only go so far. We have come so far. It's been how many years in the making, and there's nothing to show for it. And Fabrice, I'm saying again, one last time, we really should start having the conversation of which sports should be first preference when it comes to budgets in the country, which sports are doing really well. You've highlighted taekwondo, chess, swimming. I mean, it's quite a lot of them. Maybe we do want to, just make them first preference and see what's going to happen. We're not saying anything to the Minister of Sports, but we are journalists and we're having this conversation, which is highlighting what has been happening realistically. Fabrice, let's come back home. Our football league, our Premier League, MTN Premier League, it's going really well. I think what I love about it is we're getting to the point where we see changes in position one. I mean, after last weekend, we saw Mbabane Swallows at the top of the log standings. A couple of days later, say 3 days later, Green Mamba is back on top. Things might change again this weekend, and I think this is what we want to see. This has been the worry, I mean, from you and Master as well. We'd see English Premier League, we've seen Manchester City dominate for a while, and it's pleasing to see Arsenal now toppling them and all these other teams. Let's talk about our football league. Singizini Hotspurs versus Highlanders, obviously they drew this week. Seabirds and Green Mamba won 2-0 to make it back to the top. What are your sentiments regarding Green Mamba?
Yeah, these were sort of like games in hand, because if you look at the log prior to this week, like we highlighted, when Mbabane Swallows was on top of the league, Mbabane Swallows and the rest had played 9 games. So Green Mamba had played 8 games. So they were playing their game in hand against Seabirds, and getting 3 points and return to the top of the league. It sends a message to say we're in to defend it. And I think, like I said, we can go on and talk about everything. And I've heard people saying, you know what, some teams have now moved. They have changed how the Swallows are doing very well. I don't want to take that away from them. They are very well. But I think for me, in my opinion, they will lack consistency in games where it matters. They have got a big game against Wanderers this weekend. Can they go and get the 3 points? That's a question mark. They might, yes. I know there are problems at Wanderers, but this is a big game. This is a big. The names they speak for themselves. So I think the consistency that Green Mamba has, and what Coach Ernest Mavosa has installed in this team, I'm confident that these guys will defend the title. Look at the weekend results. If you look at Rangers, Ilovo, Moroni Pirates, and things in Hotspurs, I'm concerned with Hotspurs because too many draws these days. Young Buffaloes, Eswatini United, Buffalo should walk away with the 3 points, in my opinion. Wanderers and Mbabane Swallows. Yes, Swallows might win this game, but it's going to be tough for them because it's always a big game when these two sides meet. And then we've got Highlanders and Seabirds. Highlanders also, they have got issues of consistency. They can't give you 3 points in 3 games in a row. So Ray Leopard, I still want to ask maybe Coach Edwin Matsebola, what's going on? Does he need to refresh the team and get, maybe is he in a rebuilding process? Why is it taking time for Leopard? Because CAF released elite teams in each country where they're going now to be funding them for a specific reason. And Ray Leopard was ranked amongst the best teams, and Mbabane Swallows and Highlanders, So the last fixture is Madlenya on a Sunday against Green Mamba.
But I think that's the most interesting one, Fabrice, because you look at the log standings. Madlenya is on the 3rd position, Green Mamba
yet to lose the
1st
game.
position. Green Mamba wants to win this game because if they don't, like you said, Mbabane Swallows might beat Manzini Wanderers. And if Swallows wins, they're back at the top of the log standings. Green Mamba really wants to win this game, but it's not an easy one for Green Mamba.
Remember now I'm talking about now chasing the first round carrot, because locally we have, which I still don't understand. Locally we have, when the first round finishes, where you've played the first 13 games, then there's an incentive for the person who's sitting on the table. Then you enter to the second, something I'm yet to see. It confuses me because I still put a question mark. Other leagues don't do that. Maybe it's a way of motivating the teams. We should appreciate that. We final twice. CAF Champions League final twice. A final is final. Why is it twice?
Yeah.
So I don't understand why even a first round there's an insane. A league is a marathon. Let's hit the ground running until the last game. But I'm quite worried with the two teams at the bottom of the league. These are some of the most followed teams in the country. Yeah. Pirates and Wanderers. And then I think the issue at Wanderers, we recently spoke to some of the executive member. Mr. Bongani Banyaza Mhlori, highlighting that now they are working towards fixing the issue. We're yet to hear maybe from Morani Pirates what's happening. They're yet to win even a single game since the kick of the season. So I'm quite excited. I'm quite excited to see how teams have been fighting, but those who are not really putting an effort, it's quite disappointing. Then it brings that question mark: is really our league the best 11th in Africa? No, I disagree. It's not the best 11.
I mean, it's exciting. It's exciting right now, but I see where you're coming with that question. But maybe, Fabrice, before we move into, we're going to skip the DSTV Premiership, by the way, and go straight to the English Premier League. But before that, I want you to give me a prediction. Madlenya versus Green Mamba and Swallows versus Wanderers. What do you see at the top of the log standings after this week?
I think. Remember, we'll get the 3 points. Madlenya, unfortunately, in my opinion, I feel like they will lose their first game of the season.
Okay.
Yeah, so Green Mamba will maintain. They will be 23 points by Monday. Swallows, if it's not a draw, but it's a mass victory for them against Wanderers, so they'll be back to 21. They will head to 21 points. Okay. I mean, so the race for the first round carrot is amongst the two teams, Green Mamba and Bafana Swallows, because if you look at Highlanders, they're just quite far. Ray Leopards, they can catch up within the remaining 4 games.
Okay, Fabrice, match day 14. Of 38. This is the English Premier League, the most exciting league in the world. Arsenal versus Wolves. Arsenal at the top of the log standings, currently playing against a team that you cannot never say they're going to get an easy win.
You know what? I did my research. Is that I don't know how supporters are going to take it.
Okay.
But whenever I was actually exchanging this message to Master, and then Master was saying that it's true. I like it, but
his bias, of course.
But my worry is that whenever there is a record, Arsenal has got a way of changing that record.
No, he's the Arsenal
for
fan.
the past 30 years, a team that has come close to win the league, the next season they win it. So if
you reckon close, Arsenal might just win the league?
So you remember Liverpool against Manchester City, that when they finished 92-91, the next season they won it. Chelsea did the same thing during those years. So the history, Newcastle in 1990, Newcastle in 1990. Newcastle 1997, you talk about the likes of Birmingham City. So whenever you've come close to win the league, the next season you've got a chance. And I think you look at some of the best pundits in the world, those who are speaking ill of Arsenal last season, Gary Neville, talk about, Carragher, they have actually brought some inspiring message saying that it is really, quite good to see what Arsenal has done so far in this season. Because last season, by this point, this time in point, they were not 30 points. They were actually probably above 30 points, but they had defeats against some of the big giants, your Chelsea, your Manchester City. But now we're talking about a team that has beaten Manchester City, a draw against Chelsea. They are yet to go to Liverpool towards the end of this December, if it's not on Boxing Day, actually. So against Wolves on home soil, they're quite motivated after that 6-0 against Lens in the UEFA Champions League. So it shouldn't be, a difficult day for them.
You're making a great point, Fabrice. And I think they have been making a statement, but you got to pay attention for you to really see the statement they have been making. They've been playing really, really well.
Look at the fixture. At St. James Park, Newcastle United, Manchester United. And I think this fixture, if not maybe the chance for, coach, to redeem himself, a lot of criticism, in this game. I think Newcastle United are going to beat them. It is a tough place to go. Manchester United, they don't have consistency in how they're performing these days. So if they go to St. James Park on Saturday and don't get 3 points for Eric Ten Hag, I think he's going to be in boiled water. Supporters are just going to.
And my team now for President this season when we look at their records, because they've both played 13 matches. Manchester United, of course, have 1 game advantage over Newcastle in that they've won 8. Newcastle has only won 7. But I want us to really pay particular focus on Arsenal, Man City, and Liverpool's fixtures this weekend. Of course, we've highlighted Arsenal versus Wolves. Liverpool is playing Fulham. which might be an easy win for Liverpool.
Yeah,
and
it is going to be.
That means if Liverpool gets this win and the other teams are unfortunate, Liverpool is at the top of the log standings.
You can see, sorry to cut you can see where Liverpool's focus is. I was watching their game last night, the Europa League game. You know, and then if you look at the usual starting 11, it's not that way. What you saw, there was no Van Dijk, there was no Trent Alexander, you know, there was no Darren Núñez. You know, I think it was only Gapco and other few players. The likes of Jota were not there. It shows the focus of the coach to say we can actually take this trophy if we push. So the three teams are in a really, really good position. Anyone can go all the way and take it, depending on the fixtures.
Yeah,
I mean,
but would you say Manchester City going into this weekend has the biggest challenge?
I think they don't have the biggest challenge.
Compared to the other teams,
they are not giving me that confidence anymore, because I feel like now any team that gives itself or gives themselves a chance to prepare themselves, they really can just hold them and make sure that they don't get probably 3 points. Yes, maybe you can speaking specifically against this game, but
I think
we're talking about Tottenham
is going to be
Hotspurs.
hard.
It's going to be hard, and Tottenham Hotspurs, yes, I know they started well the season, 5 games in a row, victory, that even I think conceding, if I'm not mistaken, but coming to Manchester City and Spurs, it's a tricky one. Spurs they have improved. They have got injuries these days. They have got also players on suspension. If Madison could be back and a few players, they could really compete. But let's not take away the credits from number 4, Aston Villa. I've been quite impressed with Aston Villa. They are 28 points, 2 points behind log leaders. And if you look at what Unai Emery has done with the team, you really get shocked. Then you go down, look at the likes of Chelsea, where they are seated now, number 10. They need to improve the results. Manchester United, number 6. Newcastle United also amongst the top 10 teams. So quite interesting. But once again, I don't see anything changing from this weekend. We will return maybe on Monday and talk about how Arsenal is probably 33 points. City could be 30 with a draw against Spurs. And Liverpool could be
31.
Yeah.
I give them 31 as well. It's going to be an exciting one. La Liga, real quick, Fabrice. I'm going to swallow my pride. I had a conversation with Master on Monday, and I said Girona is going to win their game because they had a game in hand that they played during the week.
And like I said,
I had said they were going to win that game and, be number 1 again. But Real Madrid is still up there because Girona itrowile. But let's go into this weekend now. It's going to be exciting what's going to happen because, yes, Real Madrid is on 35 points, and they're on the first position. But Girona, 35 points as well, second position. What are your sentiments?
I think we talked last week Friday when I highlighted that it's still early in the season to think that maybe Girona could go all the way and frustrate these teams and maybe win the league. Yes, they can maintain a good position in the first 20 games. But this game, FC Barcelona, just at the bottom of the screen, Barcelona against Atletico Madrid, it could change a lot of things because Atletico Madrid, they have good capability of holding Barcelona, and if they hold Barcelona, Madrid could extend, because I still believe that the fight is not really between Madrid, Girona, and Atletico Madrid. The fight is between Madrid and Barcelona.
You think so?
Yeah,
I think Barcelona has been playing really, really badly for
Let me give you an example.
Silently, though.
Let me give you an example. It's 4 points. They are 31, Barcelona. Madrid is 35. We're yet to get to the El Clasico. If they win the El Clasico, that's 34 points. So we are 1 point behind log leaders. So it's early. In season he played more than 38 games.
We have to say goodbye to the viewers, Fabrice. But I'll tell you what, if Barcelona doesn't win this game against Atletico Madrid, that El Clasico game is as good as useless. Anyway, asibalelise babukele emakhaya. Ukuthi benhleli nathi ehlelweni lomuhla angeke kuphele tamna Fabrice start khuluma off air kodwa nje siba ukuthi lonhleli nathi nibe nempela sonto lenhle. Sale kahle.
less than a month before we hit 2024. Hello and welcome on a Thursday evening where we bring you live the Teqball edition. We look at other sporting codes despite from what we saw on Monday when we were just looking at football. So the Thursday edition just gives you focus on other sporting codes. Now, today's show will give full attention to the one of the top athletes when we talk about swimming in the country. That is Luca Fraser. He was in Rwanda attending the Zone 3 games last week, where he returned home with medals. He was not alone because he was in the company of Kendra McNamara. The two athletes managed to represent well with the presence of this coach, who happens also to be the acting Eswatini Swimming Association president, Mr. Welcome Tlaba. So we just have a talk. What happened in Rwanda, in the capital city of Kigali, for the country to return home with something like this. I'm talking about serious stuff, medals. 2 golds, 1 bronze, and 1 silver. That's just for one man. What can we do as a country? All about victory. Now, moving on to that, there is Teqball. Teqball, unfortunately, on the other side, they were part of the 2023 World Cup that is currently ongoing in Thailand. Our two representative being Menzi, Mnisi and Sposetu Skonza are already out of the tournament. But there was a bit of hope when they were competing at the last 32 stage. So finally, the end result said that they could not carry on with the remaining competition. But that was enough for them just to make the country proud. It is the first appearance since the inception of Teqball in the country that has been since in the country in 2019. But 4 years later, the team